Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another Real Talk episode with Joe. So tonight, I always come out here and I always think, before I do these things, what I'm going to talk about, and then I come here and then I kind of sometimes, fall short of those thoughts, But it's been kind of an interesting year thus far. And I really wanted to talk about the changes that are going on in my life. And this is always something very therapeutic for me. I think that sometimes these types of videos are good too, because you get to know us better, Rob and I. Rob does these types of videos as well. And at the same time, maybe it helps somebody else who's going through the same types of things. And I think it's important. We always thought it was important when we do these videos that we put out a good message. We always thought that it was important when we do these videos that we're transparent. And we always thought that when we put out these videos that we should, do it for the right reasons, because it's the right thing to do. So I'm standing here in this parking lot of it's like midnight, and I'm in this parking lot of this abandoned building over here, and I guess that kind of sets the mood for this type of thing. It's creepy, it's a little scary, and I hear somebody yelling over there already. It's weird because when we do these videos, no matter where we go, there's always seems to be people out. There's like some dude just walking right over there, talking to himself. I don't know, guys. Anyway, it's been kind of a rough year in general for me. I started thinking back today, a lot's been going on. It's Father's Day, and I talked to my kids today. It was so awesome, and I wish that they could be here right now, but my son, he just graduated college. He's got a job out of state, and he's doing well. And my daughter, she's in college out of state, and then my two young boys live with their mom out of state. But I did get to talk to them today, and it was really, really nice talk, and kind of made me think back on things. And also Chris, who I've known since I lived in Florida, since I moved here from New York. I've known him many, many years, and had dinner at his house the other night, and got to enjoy him and his family, and say our kind of goodbyes, if you will. Although it's not a permanent goodbye, it's not like he's right up the street where I could just go to his house and see how he's doing, or set up a video with him. And then Rob, feel bad for Rob, because he doesn't even know where his son is right now. And so Father's Day was pretty hard on him in particular. It's kind of weird. I started thinking about, I guess it's my age now. I'll be 52 in September, and wow, time just flew by. I still feel like a kid at heart. I really, truly do. I don't think you ever really need to grow up, per se. I mean, you have to be mature, right, and do the right thing. But at the same time, I think that it's really important to, one is know where you came from, and two is to know where you're going. And I'm kind of at that spot in my life, you know what I mean? Where I kind of reflected back, especially, of all the things in my life that, got me to where I am today. And so I started thinking, and I started thinking about change, right? This is the theme of this video, change. And one of the thoughts that came to my head, because I just moved into a new house, and when you move from one house to the next, for some reason, I always wind up with a bunch of stuff still, that I thought I got rid of everything I needed to get rid of until I moved to the next place. And I have these in my closet, boxes of stuff that's just memories throughout the years with pictures, and some of it has some of the kids' belongings, and uh, you know, things from the past that kind of make me, you know, remember back. And so I wanted to take you down that road and kind of talk about those things, and talk about the journey that we've been on through urban ghost, urban exploration, um, and where we are going in the future and so forth. And first thing I wanted to talk about was, I remember my son as a little boy, my oldest son. And I was thinking about that today, and I remember he loved balls, like footballs, basketballs, anything that had to do with like any kind of ball, soccer ball, And I still have all these toys from him when he was a kid, and I was kind of cleaning that out today. And I remember he was such a shy kid, and he was a little chubby, and always respectful, and he was the type of kid that never even really cursed or anything. He always was very on the straight and narrow, And I remember when he was little, we used to love Hot Wheels cars and stuff like that, and I still have those. And so I'm going through all this stuff today, in this closet, and I'm kind of sorting it out, and I'm kind of putting everything away in its place, and thinking about all these things running through my head. And it's there's a poem by Snodgrass called Mementos, and it's he references in the poem, he finds this picture of his ex-wife, and he references it as raking leaves in his yard and turning up a severed hand, that shocking feeling. And I got that today. Boy, did I get that, just going through stuff, and pictures of me and my first wife, and pictures of me and my second wife and our kids. And I thought about ooh man, this has been a crazy journey. And I thought about the last couple of years, and we've been doing videos for just over 3 years now. And I really thought about the core of why we did these videos, and what our ideals were, what my ideals were at one time, and what they are now. And found an old a manuscript of a novel that I've been writing for years, And then I thought a lot back, and I'm gonna kind of take you on that journey. So came across some of my old trophies from playing sports when I was younger, high school, middle school, things like that. I was such an athletic kid, and I was kind of just the opposite of what you think an athlete would be, because I was a really shy kid. But if you if I played a sport, I was I really excelled at it. And I think that was my way of fighting and overcoming things, overcoming insecurities, overcoming fear. And just happened to be really good at it. I used to go to the park by my house. I remember I was 15, maybe 14, and I'd go play with these kids at the park, and I could dunk the basketball like nothing, And and I just remember that made me feel good and feel confident with myself, though I really wasn't, I was confident playing sports, but not confident. I wasn't a confident kid, I was kind of a shy kid. And I see a lot of that in my son Joey when he was younger, really good at sports, but at the same time kind of a shy kid, And the reason why I'm focusing on Joey is because he just recently left, and he's my last child that was here in Florida, So that's been a real tough thing for me to overcome, to feel good about. Or, I mean, I feel good that he's doing it. He's moved on, he's got a good job, but at the same time it's bittersweet, right? You can't have the sweet without the bitter, I suppose. So then I thought about, like, when I first moved to Florida, you know, and how different this world seemed to me as opposed to New York. And I grew up on Long Island, and Long Island's not, most people, if you don't know this, New York, they automatically assume that you were born in the city and that everywhere you were was like big giant buildings and you know, but that's perception. You know, it's kind of like people think of Illinois and they right away think of Chicago and they equate it with, you know, Chicago's this big city, you know. But I grew up in really like a New England town. You know, lots of colonial type homes, and you know, coming from that environment to Florida, where it's very there's a lot of, seems like there's a lot more space here, not as much rich in history as New York was, at least in my perception at that time. But I made this my home. All my children were born in Florida, and you know, they grow up so fast, you know. And you know, I always think of, you know, that song "Cats in the Cradle." I probably mentioned this before, but you know, that song where, you know, he talks about, you know, as a father, you know, you know, his son is always trying to like have time with his dad, and he's always busy and working. And then at the end of the song, you know, he's retired now, and now his son doesn't have time for him, and he realizes, oh man, my son's kind of grown up just like me. And I think about that. I think about that with my son, my daughter, and it's kind of weird now being here in Florida because, you know, again, change, right? Change. So I never thought I'd come back to this area. You know, I kind of moved out of this town for a while, for the last couple of years, and circumstance brought me back here, and it's affordable, and you get a, you know, bigger house for less money, but it's no longer a home here for me, you know. So it makes me think about what I'm going to do with my life, you know. And of course the videos are always going to be part of my life because I love doing these videos. I love making videos. I love producing the videos. And I love the community that we built off these videos. But I look around here and then I look back at my ideals, and when I first moved here to Florida, you know, remember getting involved in all different types of things. It was about money at that time in my life, you know, and my first wife and I were making a great deal of money, and we had everything we wanted. But the money turned out to be a big problem because the money became more important than our relationship at one point, and resentment sets in, and I look back on those times now and I regret a lot of that. Like, we met in college, my first wife and we met in college, and I remember her college was way, I mean, both of us went to colleges in New York, but I was at a college on Long Island and she was at a college upstate New York, and literally to get to her school to drive was like 9 hours. And you had to drive, you know, across Long Island, through New York City, and then go through part of Pennsylvania, then up to upstate New York. And I always wanted to be a writer. You know, we talked about this when we were in college. You know, I was like, oh, I want to be a writer. I want to write the great American novel. And she's like, yeah, I want to be a great teacher. And she actually turned out to be a great teacher. She actually really, really is. She won Teacher of the Year. She went ahead and got her master's, her doctorate, PhD. So she's got all that. And Now she's really successful at teaching, and I'm not even sure in what capacity right now, but I never really wrote my novel. I'd write it sometimes, and then sometimes I wouldn't write it, and it always took a feeling, like an emotion for me to write. I'm kind of a person, I'm an artsy person. So as an artsy person, in my opinion, sometimes when you get depressed or down is when I'd write the best material, you know? I'll share a story with you too about this. So what was that? I just heard a whistle. Shouldn't be hearing a whistle. So anyway, back to this book, and this is all tying into something here. Sorry, there may be cuts in this video because sometimes I talk a lot. It's what I do. I always talk a lot. I talk with my hands. I'm always moving my hands. Sorry guys, it's me. That's what I do. Ideals and a story I'm going to share with you. So I always thought that I wanted to write the great American novel. Just be such a, I used to read poetry all the time. I used to read a lot of I'd even read Chaucer and Shakespeare and great American novels like Uncle Tom's Cabin, and I'd read these short stories, by Robert Frost and Joyce Carol Oates. I was always into these. I always thought these people were fascinating. So I started writing a novel. But before I started writing that novel, I'm on the Long Island Railroad, and I'm sitting at, there's 3 seats facing each other, and it's me, my friend Danny, and then my friend Mike, and then right across from us is a man, a little girl, and a woman, and the woman's sitting right in front of me, facing me. And we're on this train, and we were going to Manhattan from Long Island, and I'm not sure why we were going, but we were taking this trip that day, and I probably was 16 or 17. And anyway, the woman in front of me grabs my hand and goes, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you." And I'm like, okay. My friends are looking at me kind of weird, what is this woman saying? And why is she not introducing herself to all of us, just you? So anyway, eventually their stop comes before us, and she starts to get off the train. And then she comes running back, and she goes, "Stand up," and she hugs me, and she goes, "Oh, I can't believe I met you. Oh my God, I can't believe I met you." And then she goes, "God is with you, son. God is with you." And then she gets off the train. So my friend's like, what just happened? Is this woman trying to pick you up or something? And I'm like, I have no idea. So anyway, fast forward many years. I'm in my 30s now. My sister buys a new house in New York on Long Island, and of course, can you help move? So of course I'm there to help move, and I go to her house, and she doesn't know anybody yet in the neighborhood, and we finally set up the kitchen table, and my sister's we're sitting down at the table, and then the neighbor comes over and knocks on the door, and she's like, she came over with a pie or something, welcome to the neighborhood type deal. And she's sitting across from me, and she keeps staring at me, this woman. Now, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know my sister, but she invited her in. Of course, she brought over a pie. My sister made tea and coffee for everybody. And the woman goes, "God is with you, son. God is with you, son." And I was like, this is really weird. Is this woman about to preach to me? And then she goes, "I'm not the same person that you met on the train that told you that when you were 17 years old." And then I remembered it. And I'm like, okay, you got my attention. And she goes, "That woman was a psychic, and I'm a psychic too." So she's like, "But I'm not that same person." But she goes, "Remember, she hugged you and said she was really happy to meet you." And I said, is this woman coming from? I don't even believe in this stuff. What's going on here? But how does she know this? So then she proceeds to tell me, she told me somebody I worked with by their first and last name. It was really weird. It wasn't a name that you could guess, like John Smith. And she's like, the woman on the train knew that someday you would write the great American novel. But you're going to go through a lot of heartache first, and then you'll write this great novel. And she was too afraid to tell you that day on the train, because she thought if she told it to you, you would never actually do it. Or believe her if she did tell you that. And then she told me some other things. I had just bought a house, and I just put like all this money into it, put new windows, roof, skylights, the whole 9 yards. And she goes, oh, by the way, that house you'll be out of in 6 months because it's going to become condemned. And I'm like, that's the only thing that didn't make sense to what she was saying, until within like 5 months later, that house became condemned because I had a sinkhole, and the whole pool collapsed into a sinkhole, and the insurance company condemned the house, and I had to get out. So anyway, so it's got me thinking. So I'm holding this manuscript today, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm going to start writing again. And I realized that for the past couple of years, doing these videos has been real therapeutic for me. Helped me face a lot of things, helped me learn a lot about myself, learn about others, and brings me to where I am now. Same town in Florida. So I'm thinking probably at the end of this lease on the house that I have here, I'm probably going to move on, maybe go be with my kids, move closer to them. Doesn't mean I'll stop doing the videos. Doesn't mean I'll stop doing the videos with Rob. I'm sure he would probably come too. But I thought about that, and I thought all these ghosts that I have around here, and I'm speaking figuratively, right? Because a lot of ghosts, for a long time I had a lot of ghosts. Like everywhere I'd go, I think of being there with my family, and now they're not with me, and just all kinds of things. And I realize it's part of my soul. It's part of who I am. It's part of my makeup of who I am. I'm a person who actually cares. You know, I know people in my life that sometimes they don't care about things that I care about, but I just care. And I think God blessed me with a tender heart and soul, and a strong mind, and a strong body, and a strong will. But behind that is a very, very loving person. And I made a lot of mistakes. I mean, I made so many mistakes in my life, I could write just another book on just the mistakes I made. It'd be a big book, too. And I thought about that. And I thought about the last few years and the heartache I went through. And then I realized one of my best therapies is doing these videos and also penning that book again. And I already have the beginning and the end already in it, and I just have to put the meat in the middle, figure that out. But then I thought about here and where I am, and life is funny because, you know, I sit here and this is really not my home anymore. Think about like leaving New York and coming to Florida, my failed marriages, left a lot of loneliness in my life, and it's been a rough couple of years. Matter of fact, you know, change again. You know, thinking about if I didn't start making these videos, because I've always known that I would do something like this. Ever since I was a little kid, I always knew that I would be doing television, movies, things that are different than the norm. I just always knew that about myself. And you know, I kind of thank God every day because I have so many blessings in my life. And there's been times in my life that I really didn't think that I would even really see tomorrow. You know, depression is a real awful thing, and because I care and I have that heart, and you know, I would beat myself up. I always thought in my head for the last couple of years that I didn't deserve to be happy if I couldn't be with my kids every day. It's like survivor's guilt. It's just a weird thing, you know. And I always think about these things, and I say to myself, what really makes you happy, you know? But then is it happiness or is it joy that I'm looking for, right? Because joy is really what I want. And there's no more joy here for me in this part of Florida. I mean, you know, I think about Chris leaving, my son leaving, my daughter leaving, my boys leaving, the ghosts that I face on a daily basis. Everywhere I go, it seems like I'm surrounded by ghosts. And honestly, again, these ghosts are the memories in my head, you know. Like I could be in the grocery store and I'll remember, like, it'll be like a flashback in my head of my, you know, me holding hands with my boys, or, you know, doing something in that store with them, and they're not there right now. So I think about these things, and that helps me write. It helps tap into the creative side of me, and I really believe that I'm gonna finish my book. Now, the other side of the equation is there's a lot of TV and other opportunities that come from doing these videos. And I thought about those opportunities, but the first thing I need to do is get myself... Sorry, I must have been talking for over 30 minutes because the camera shut off. But as I was saying, these opportunities that arise, I always think about those opportunities, and I really want to get myself in a position where I'm okay with the ghosts of my past to be able to move forward with those things. And it was really sad saying goodbye to Chris, Chris's family. And so it's been a rough couple of years. A lot of changes. We're going to be doing some traveling, which is really needed, and thank you for your patience with that. The last couple of months we've been on lockdown. We've still been trying to occupy our time with videos, and at the same time, you know, everybody has to, play it safe, and there's, it's been kind of a difficult last couple of months, to say the least. But those are the... Okay, there comes that guy again who's talking to himself. Whew, man. I mean, come on, guys, it's after midnight. I'm in a parking lot of an abandoned building here, and there's some guy talking. Anyway, I've been probably talking for a long time. This is good for me. Again, I always come out here and I always think, oh, I'm going to say this, that, and the other, and I have these things mapped out in my head, and I'm like, okay, great. Then I come out here and my heart takes over and I just spill it out. But I do wish everybody a happy Father's Day, and I'm really proud of all my kids. They're amazing. And I realized sometimes how alone I really am, and there's truth in the fact of, the more known you become, sometimes the smaller your world actually does get. And the reason why that is that there's people that want to know you for you, and there's people that want to know you for what you do. And those are two very different people, and they'll never really understand the real you. So that's another reason why I do these videos, is to put out things that are really us, make you, know me more, know Rob more when he does it, and then of course, it's really therapeutic for me. Anyway, guys, I wish you a blessed and wonderful night. I know I talked a lot, and it's getting pretty creepy out here, and that guy's over there. There's some dude over there, and he was just talking to himself. So I have a feeling he's not playing with a full deck, and I'm here by myself. Anyway, guys, have a blessed night, and thank you so much for hearing me out. I hope you enjoy these real talks. I do. Have a good night. Love you. Peace.
I hear the songs above my head. They are nearly faded. Every day I'm unafraid to be the last who made it.
When I sound the drums of war, unable to admit it, you were there to fill my home.